My mama loved you so much, and she appreciated your love for her. And I'm sorry that she couldn't hang on until today.
Give a little love, a little squeeze and a little kiss.
When I was an entertainer, when I was on stage singing the songs that I'd written, I knew that it really wasn't about me. I'm a communicator.
What would you do if you were the one who found your own mother after she took her own life? How would you even begin to heal from something so heartbreaking? Today, we're talking about one of the most painful stories in recent celebrity news, but also one of the most important conversations about mental health and healing. This is the story of Ashley Judd and how she found the strength to speak out after losing her mother, country music legend Naomi Judd, to suicide. If you've ever wondered how someone can survive such unimaginable pain and turn it into something that helps others, you need to hear Ashley's story. It's not just about grief. It's about courage, hope, and the power of speaking your truth even when it hurts. Let me take you back to April 30th, 2022. It was supposed to be one of the most exciting days in Naomi Judd's life. The next day, she and her daughter Winona were going to be inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. This was the biggest honor any country music artist could receive. After decades of making beautiful music together as the Judds, they were finally getting the recognition they deserved. But that celebration never happened the way it was supposed to. On that Saturday in April, something terrible occurred at Naomi's home in Tennessee. Her daughter Ashley was there, and what she found would change her life forever. Naomi Judd, at 76 years old, had taken her own life. Now, you might be wondering who exactly Naomi Judd was and why her death shocked so many people. Let me tell you about this incredible woman. Naomi was born Diana Ellen Judd in Kentucky back in 1946. She wasn't born into fame or fortune. Her dad owned a gas station, and her mom was a homemaker. Just a regular family trying to make it in small-town America. But Naomi had dreams that were bigger than her little Kentucky town. After having two daughters, Ashley and Winona, she moved the family to Tennessee. She worked as a nurse to support her girls, but she never gave up on her love for music. And thank goodness she didn't, because what came next would make music history. In the 1980s, Naomi and her daughter Winona formed a country music duo called the Judds. And let me tell you, they weren't just good, they were absolutely amazing. They dominated the country music charts like nobody's business. Songs like Love Can Build a Bridge and Mama He's Crazy became classics that people still love today. They won Grammy Awards, Country Music Association Awards, and sold millions of records. But here's the thing about success. It doesn't protect you from life's hardest battles. Even while the Judds were at the top of their game, Naomi was fighting demons that most people never knew about. In 1991, she was diagnosed with hepatitis C, a serious liver disease. The doctors told her she might only have 3 years to live. Can you imagine getting news like that when you're at the peak of your career? That diagnosis forced the Judds to stop performing together. Winona went on to have a successful solo career, but for Naomi, the end of their duo was devastating. She had to face not just a serious illness, but also the loss of the thing she loved most, making music with her daughter. What many people didn't know back then was that Naomi was also battling something even more dangerous than hepatitis C. She was struggling with severe depression and mental illness. This wasn't just feeling sad sometimes. This was a deep, dark battle that followed her for years and years. Naomi was actually pretty open about her mental health struggles later in life. She talked about having treatment-resistant depression, which means that even when doctors tried to help her with medicine and therapy, nothing seemed to work very well. She also dealt with suicidal thoughts, something that millions of people around the world can relate to but often feel too scared to talk about. Despite all these challenges, Naomi kept fighting. She lived much longer than those doctors predicted back in 1991. She saw her daughters grow up and have their own successes. Ashley became a famous actress, starring in movies and becoming an activist for important causes. Winona continued to make beautiful music. Naomi even found love again and married Larry Strickland. But mental illness is tricky. It can seem like everything is going well on the outside while inside, someone is still struggling terribly. And that's exactly what happened to Naomi. On that tragic day in April 2022, Ashley was visiting her mother. They were probably excited about the Hall of Fame induction coming up the next day. But when Ashley arrived, she discovered something no child should ever have to see. Her mother had used a gun to end her own life. Can you even imagine what that moment must have been like for Ashley? In one instant, her whole world changed forever. The mother who had raised her, supported her dreams, and been her rock was gone. And Ashley was the one who found her. Most people, when faced with such a horrible tragedy, might want to hide away from the world. They might want to keep everything private and deal with their grief alone. But Ashley Judd is not most people. Within just a few weeks of her mother's death, she made a decision that was incredibly brave and incredibly difficult. She decided to speak out publicly about what really happened to her mother. In May 2022, just 2 weeks after Naomi's death, Ashley appeared on Good Morning America with Diane Sawyer. This wasn't just any interview. This was Ashley telling the whole world the truth about how her mother died. She sat there, with tears in her eyes but strength in her voice, and said words that many people never expected to hear. "Mother used a firearm," Ashley said. Those 4 simple words told the whole story. Her mother had died by suicide, and Ashley wasn't going to let people make up their own stories about what happened. But why would Ashley put herself through the pain of talking about something so personal and heartbreaking on national television? She explained that she and her family made a conscious choice to be honest about Naomi's death. They didn't want it to become part of what Ashley called the gossip economy. They didn't want people making up rumors or spreading lies about what happened. More importantly, Ashley wanted to shed light on mental health issues. She wanted other families who might be dealing with similar struggles to know they weren't alone. She wanted to break the stigma around suicide and mental illness. And she wanted to honor her mother's memory by being honest about the battle Naomi had been fighting. In that interview with Diane Sawyer, Ashley shared some of the most heartbreaking details you could imagine. She talked about what it was like to find her mother. She talked about the trauma of that moment. But she also talked about love, and about how much her family loved Naomi despite her struggles. The disease of mental illness, that's how Ashley and Winona described what took their mother's life. They wanted people to understand that Naomi didn't die because she was weak or because she didn't love her family enough. She died because she had an illness that, despite everyone's best efforts, ultimately won the battle. Ashley also shared something incredibly personal in that interview. She talked about the last conversation she had with her mother. She said that even in those final moments, she tried to comfort Naomi. She told her mother that she loved her, and she tried to help her find peace. The response to Ashley's brave decision to speak out was overwhelming. People from all around the world reached out to support her and her family. Many shared their own stories about losing loved ones to suicide or about their own battles with mental health. Ashley's honesty had opened up a conversation that desperately needed to happen. But speaking out was just the beginning of Ashley's journey. Dealing with such a traumatic loss, especially when you're the one who discovered it, requires a lot of healing. And Ashley was honest about that too. She talked about how she immediately got back into therapy after her mother's death. She wasn't ashamed to admit that she needed professional help to deal with what had happened. She specifically mentioned doing EMDR therapy, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. It's a special type of therapy that helps people process traumatic experiences. Ashley spent 3 months in intensive therapy in the fall of 2022. She worked hard to process not just the trauma of finding her mother, but also all the complicated emotions that come with losing someone to suicide. There's grief, of course, but there can also be anger, guilt, confusion, and so many other feelings that are hard to sort through. One of the things that made Ashley's healing even more difficult was that some people tried to make money off her family's tragedy. There were reports that unauthorized photos from the scene of Naomi's death were being shared. There were investigative reports being prepared that Ashley felt would violate her family's privacy during their time of grief. Ashley fought back against these intrusions. She wrote public statements explaining why she was trying to block the release of certain information about her mother's death. She talked about how her family was being subjected to aggressive questioning and investigation at the worst possible time in their lives. "We are in unknown territory," Ashley wrote. She explained that while she understood people's curiosity, her family deserved the right to grieve privately. She didn't want her mother's death to become a public spectacle or a source of entertainment for others. Throughout all of this, Ashley showed incredible strength. She continued to speak out about mental health awareness. She became an advocate for suicide prevention. She worked with organizations that help other families dealing with similar losses. In interviews after that first appearance on Good Morning America, Ashley talked about how different family members grieve in different ways. She said that she and other family members sometimes agree to disagree about how to handle their grief. Some people want to talk about it publicly, while others prefer to keep things private. Some find comfort in certain activities or memorials, while others need different kinds of healing. This is such an important point that Ashley made. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. Everyone processes loss differently, and families need to respect each other's different ways of coping. What matters is that everyone gets the support they need to heal in their own way and in their own time. Ashley also talked about how she was working to keep her mother's memory alive in positive ways. She shared stories about the kind of mother Naomi was, how she would set the table carefully for family dinners, how she loved her daughters fiercely, how she had such a passion for life and for music. One of the most touching things Ashley shared was about her final words to her mother. Even in that terrible moment when she found Naomi, Ashley's instinct was to comfort her. She spoke words of love and tried to bring her mother peace. This shows just how deep the love was between them, even in the darkest of moments. As time went on, Ashley continued to be open about her healing journey. She talked about the ongoing process of grief, about how some days are harder than others, about how healing isn't a straight line. Some days she felt strong and ready to help others. Other days she needed to focus on taking care of herself. She also spoke about the importance of therapy and mental health care. Ashley made it clear that getting professional help isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. She encouraged others who are struggling to reach out for help, whether they're dealing with their own mental health issues or trying to support a loved one who is struggling. One thing that really stood out about Ashley's approach to all of this was how she balanced honesty with hope. Yes, she was honest about the pain and trauma her family experienced. She didn't sugarcoat how difficult it was to lose her mother to suicide. But she also talked about healing, about love, about the importance of continuing to live and to help others. Ashley became involved with suicide prevention organizations. She used her platform as a celebrity to bring attention to mental health resources. She wanted to make sure that other families had access to the help that might prevent them from going through what her family experienced. She also talked about the stigma around suicide and mental illness. Too often, families dealing with these issues feel like they have to keep everything secret because of shame or fear of judgment. Ashley's openness helped break down some of those barriers. She showed that it's possible to love someone deeply while also being honest about their struggles. Throughout her interviews and public statements, Ashley always emphasized how much her family loved Naomi. She never wanted people to think that Naomi's death meant she didn't love her daughters or her husband. Mental illness and suicide are complicated, and they don't happen because someone doesn't have enough love in their life. Ashley continued her healing journey. She found ways to honor her mother's legacy beyond just talking about her death. She celebrated Naomi's life, her music, her strength in fighting illness for so many years, and her love for her family. She made sure people remembered Naomi as more than just the way she died. The impact of Ashley's decision to speak out has been huge. Countless people have said that her honesty helped them in their own struggles with mental health or grief. Families dealing with suicide have found comfort in knowing they're not alone. People have reached out for help because Ashley's story reminded them that it's okay to ask for support. Ashley's courage in the face of such unimaginable pain shows us something really important about the human spirit. It shows us that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to help others. We can choose to turn our pain into purpose. We can choose to speak truth even when it hurts. Her story also reminds us how important it is to take mental health seriously. Naomi Judd was a successful, talented, beloved woman who had every reason to live. But mental illness doesn't care about your accomplishments or how many people love you. It's a real disease that needs real treatment, and sometimes, despite everyone's best efforts, it can be fatal. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of suicide or severe depression, please know that help is available. There are crisis hotlines, therapists, support groups, and many other resources that can provide help. You don't have to suffer alone, and you don't have to be ashamed of needing help. Ashley Judd's story teaches us that it's possible to survive even the most devastating losses. It's possible to find meaning in pain and to use our experiences to help others. It's possible to honor the memory of someone we've lost by living fully and by speaking truth about difficult topics. Her journey is far from over. Grief doesn't have an expiration date, and healing is an ongoing process. But Ashley has shown incredible strength in choosing to be open about her experience, in getting the help she needs, and in using her platform to help others. The story of Ashley Judd speaking out after her mother's death is ultimately a story about love. Love for her mother, love for her family, and love for all the other people out there who might be struggling with similar challenges. It's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, we're not alone, and that speaking our truth can be one of the most powerful ways to heal and to help others heal too. If Ashley's story has touched you today, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it. Let's keep the conversation about mental health going. Let's break down the stigma around suicide and depression. Let's make sure that people know it's okay to ask for help and that there are people who care about them. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We're here to share important stories like Ashley's, and your support helps us continue to bring you content that matters. Share this video with your friends and family because you never know who might need to hear Ashley's message of hope and healing. Together, we can make sure that no one has to face their darkest moments alone.